This time on Earth Focus, a new lawsuit charges the U.S. government contributes to global warming by illegally funding fossil fuel projects overseas. And recent tests show that Kraft, America's largest food company, continues to use genetically engineered ingredients. Plus, news from Washington, all coming up on Earth Focus.
I don't think there's any doubt in any rational scientist's mind that climate change is a reality. Now the question is, how do we stop it? Obviously, we should halt or slow the combustion of fossil fuels.
Dr. Phil Dustin is a professor of biology at the College of Charleston in South Carolina and an expert on coral reefs. He has spent a lifetime studying the Carysford Reef in the Florida Keys and has witnessed the reef's rapid decline due partly to global warming. In August, Dustin joined the complaint of a new lawsuit that will try to turn the U.S. government away from funding large-scale fossil fuel projects overseas. Like this one in the African nation of Cameroon, where construction is underway on a new pipeline that will carry crude oil from Doba oil field in landlocked Chad through neighboring Cameroon to the Atlantic Ocean. In August of 2000, the U.S. Export-Import Bank approved a $200 million loan guarantee to help fund the pipeline, while the U.S. Overseas Private Investment Corporation this year approved $250 million in risk insurance to a Texas company working on the pipeline. The new lawsuit charges that funding of the pipeline by these two little-known U.S. federal agencies is illegal. The lawsuit was filed in August in the U.S. District Court in San Francisco by national environmental organizations, Friends of the Earth and Greenpeace, and the city of Boulder, Colorado. These plaintiffs claim that both federal agencies violated the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, by failing to assess the impact of the pipeline and other similar projects on the U.S. environment. In total, the suit claims that in the last 10 years, Exim and OPEC have illegally provided over $32 billion in financing and insurance for oil fields, pipelines, and coal-fired power plants that will result in the release of over 32 billion tons of carbon dioxide. That is 1/3 more carbon dioxide than was emitted by the consumption of fossil fuels worldwide in the year 2000. To win in court, the plaintiffs must show that OPEC and Exim projects like the Chad-Cameroon pipeline have significant impacts here in the United States. Joining their complaint are Phil Dustin and others who want to help show how the impacts of increased climate change will affect American citizens.
In the 25 or 30 years that I've been studying coral, I have seen dramatic, almost ecologically catastrophic events occur in which the reefs are now dying around the world. And I think the most graphic place that I've been is the Florida Keys, where we have seen at least a 90% reduction in the living coral cover in the last 25 years.
With global warming, Dustin says, coral like these in Carysford Reef lose their ability to harvest sunlight and grow, and they suffer from more acidic, corrosive water. Dustin says global warming adds stress to reefs already threatened by pollution, physical damage, and diseases like white plague and ring bleaching.
Coral reefs are the canary in the cage for the biosphere. They are telling us that the oceans are in trouble. They are showing us that climate change is reaching out and impacting their health.
Arthur and Ann Burnt are also participants in the case against OPEC and Exim. They operate Maverick Farm, one of the largest producers of maple syrup in the state of Vermont. Their farm has over 15,000 maple trees, and the Burnts say many older trees are dying at the tops, while more saplings than usual are turning brown and dying. The Burnts worry that climate change could add to these stresses, reduce the production of maple syrup, and decrease the value of their farm. Maple sugaring season is starting earlier in the year in Vermont, in February rather than in March. The Burnts have seen enough to believe scientists who predict that within a mere 10 or 20 years, maple trees may virtually cease to exist in Vermont and will instead only survive and spread in cooler Canadian latitudes. They think their farm could be in jeopardy. Now involved in the lawsuit against OPEC and Exim for being part of the problem, the Burnts are also critical of President Bush for not being part of the solution.
I just think we are shirking our responsibility. all the way around. I think the leaders in the United States, I mean, not signing the Kyoto Accord and so on and so forth, and
Bush even had the audacity to say that we ought to adjust, that in fact we should adjust to global warming.
or adapt.
Yeah, adapt.
Right.
Let's adjust whatever. It was quite a blasphemous comment.
And I think that's a typical answer for a lot of people, is that you adapt your way out, you mutate with a species. And I think that was much more of a reasonable solution perhaps 100 years ago, when we hadn't saturated the availability of resources on the planet.
Councilmember Corson?
Aye.
This summer, 5 city council members of Boulder, Colorado, voted with Mayor Will Tour to join the lawsuit against Exim and OPIC. They are concerned about drinking water supplies and flooding at Boulder Canyon. The city gets most of its drinking water from melting snow on the Arapahoe Glacier and processes this water at the Batassa treatment plant in the mountains near the glacier.
Boulder and the entire western United States have invested literally billions of dollars in reservoirs and pipelines and a whole sort of water supply infrastructure that's based upon capturing springtime snowmelt. And while nobody can predict exactly what changes will be required, a reduction in snowpack and earlier runoff will likely require very expensive changes.
Mayor Tour is hopeful that the suit is not too ambitious.
Our lawsuit is not asking for monetary damages. It's simply asking that under the National Environmental Policy Act, which requires the federal government to analyze the environmental impact of major federal actions, that they at least look at the climate change impact and the likely impacts on the United States.
Will the plaintiffs succeed? John Echeverria is a professor at Georgetown University Law Center.
The first challenge in any environmental litigation is to open the courthouse door. And in legal terms, that means the plaintiffs have to show that they have what judges and lawyers call legal standing. The plaintiffs in this case have made a pretty impressive showing that global warming and federal agency actions that lead to global warming affect them in their personal lives and businesses. So I think ultimately this lawsuit will succeed.
While the case proceeds, more Exim and OPIC fossil fuel projects are headed towards approval. These include loans supporting the development of the Camisea natural gas pipeline in Peru, which is already underway and expected to be completed by late 2003. The project is located in one of the world's most ecologically prized rainforests in the remote lower Urubamba Valley of the Peruvian Amazon. Home to indigenous peoples, the field contains an estimated 11 trillion cubic feet of gas. Half of this gas is anticipated to be shipped to supply West Coast energy markets. When these fossil fuels are burned, they will produce over 133 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions. Is the U.S. government legally responsible for the impact of those 133 million tons if it lends money to initiate their creation? That is the question now in court. A new laboratory test of 8 popular Kraft food products shows that America's largest food company continues to use genetically engineered ingredients, commonly known as GE ingredients. The lab test was commissioned by the Genetically Engineered Food Alert Coalition, a group of national public interest, food safety, and environmental organizations. The test is part of a new nationwide campaign urging Kraft to remove untested and potentially harmful GE foods from store shelves. The test showed that 2 products, Kraft Balance Bars and Kraft Shake and Bake Crispy Chicken Nuggets, contain genetically engineered soy. The new genes make soy plants Roundup ready, allowing farmers to use large amounts of the popular Roundup herbicide on weeds in a field without killing the soy plants. Health concerns about GE ingredients focus on potential allergic reactions to the new genetic material inserted into common crops like corn and soy. In late 2000, a GE corn variety known as Starlink was found to have contaminated over 300 products, including Kraft's Taco Bell taco shells. Some people may have had allergic reactions after eating the taco shells containing Starlink corn, which has not been approved for human consumption. Protests over Starling corn resulted in Kraft's recall of millions of taco shells.
Food allergies. Why is it?
The GE Food Alert Coalition also tested 5 Kraft products for the presence of genetically engineered corn, including Kraft's Post-brand Honey Bunches of Oats with strawberries, but found no GE corn. In a test last year, Honey Bunches of Oats regular variety cereal did contain GE ingredients. The new results indicate that Kraft may be moving away from genetically engineered corn. The GE Food Alert Coalition staged over 200 protests against Kraft in October at grocery stores and shopping marts, including this one at Kraft headquarters outside Chicago. Protesters demanded that the company take back unlabeled GE products and called on Kraft to remove GE ingredients from their foods.
Since these products are not labeled, not only do we not have a choice in whether we purchase these products or not, if we were made ill by eating genetically engineered ingredients, we wouldn't know the cause of our illness, we wouldn't be able to trace it.
There is also concern that genetically engineered ingredients are inadequately tested and their effects on human health are unknown. Pre-market testing for GE products is not required following a 1992 ruling by the Federal Food and Drug Administration. Yet there is growing evidence that the use of antibiotic marker genes in the engineering of GE foods could allow bacteria in the stomach to adopt the antibiotic-resistant traits intended only for genetically engineered plants. This could make some human diseases more resistant to antibiotics.
Fast food restaurants have become common across the American landscape over the last 50 years. So has trash. Every year, Americans discard almost 2 million tons of fast food packaging. A new product called Earthshell could help keep landfills from filling up. Earthshell plates, cups, bowls, and hinge containers biodegrade when exposed to moisture and can be composted. A California study showed that Earthshells completely degrade after 150 days. Styrofoam can last up to 500 years. If 3% of the U.S. market switched to Earthshell packaging for a year, it would save 4.2 million cubic feet of landfill space. It's the amount of trash the entire state of New York generates in 3 days. Earthshells are made from non-toxic materials like limestone and potato starch. Traditional packaging contains petroleum-based agents such as benzene and ethylene. Earthshells are microwavable and resistant to stains and grease and comparable in strength and performance to plastic and paper packaging. Currently, Earthshell products are used in the cafeteria of the Department of Interior and even by McDonald's. With Congress focused on fighting terrorism during the session, the Department of Defense sought changes to environmental laws. In May, the House passed the Readiness and Range Preservation Initiative. The House bill would allow any of 836 federally protected migratory birds to be killed during military readiness exercises. A change in federal regulations could let the U.S. Navy deploy powerful sonar equipment without regard to environmental impacts on marine life. The Department of Defense presented arguments to the Federal Council on Environmental Quality back in August, seeking exemption from the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. The exemption would allow the Navy to use sonar in all waters beyond 3 nautical miles off American shores without assessing the impact on whales or other marine life. Navy sonar equipment is known to disrupt whales and dolphins and has been identified by the Navy as the cause of mass strandings of 4 species of whales in the Bahamas in March of 2000. In that case, sonar activities by U.S. Navy ships caused cranial hemorrhaging and disorientation in 18 whales, leading to the deaths of at least 6 of them. Sonar may also be the cause of the recent stranding of 15 beaked whales in the Canary Islands. In late September, a NATO military exercise involving 58 ships and 6 submarines, including the U.S. naval destroyer Mahan, was cut short when several whales came ashore on Canary Islands beaches. In that incident, at least 2 whales died. For the second year in a row, the Bush administration and Congress have failed to renew the Superfund tax, slowing the pace of cleanups at the nation's most contaminated toxic waste sites. The Superfund tax is a fee levied on polluting industries to ensure that polluters, not taxpayers, pay for the cleanup of toxic spills. Cleanups like this one at the asbestos site in Libby, Montana continue. Yet without revenue from taxes on polluters, the Superfund is diminishing, and cleanups have declined by half. Polluting industries save an estimated $4 million daily by not having to pay the tax, forcing American citizens to pick up the tab for cleanups.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.